What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. Finally, a main roster show that's actually better than TakeOver. Honestly, looking at the card, I certainly believe they couldn't do no wrong. Orton was motivated, Bayley and Sasha are reliable as hell, a bunch of stars rise to the occasion, and to me, this was the best pay-per-view in the pandemic era. I didn't feel like there was an outright bad match. Even Fiend and Strowman had my attention. Also, I feel like the Thunderdome really enhanced the viewing experience, and at some points I didn't even think of the empty crowd, which really bugged me in past pay-per-views. It was easier for me to focus on matches, and in a way, it felt like the fans were actually in the arena. Now, I don't usually do this, but from now on, I'm going to be hell-bent on making a pay-per-view video every month. And yeah, I love making these kinds of videos. It's cool to do something that's current nowadays. It's a nice contrast from the classic stuff I usually do. But yeah, that's what I'm going to start doing. Every pay-per-view, every month, I'm going to do it right here on this channel. By the way, the next video is Booker T and Kurt Angle. I honestly would have never made that video, but you guys kept on asking for it. So I said, you know what, let's just go with it. Right now, let's get into the video. The first match was between Bayley and Asuka for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Okay, Asuka was tangled up in this Sasha Bayley story for a couple of weeks. Sasha managed to steal the Raw Women's Championship a couple of week's earlier, and so Asuka responded by winning 2 Battle Royals in order to receive 2 title shots against the role models. As for Bayley, she really came into her own. There's a vast difference from the beginning of her title reign to currently, and it seems like she learned so damn much into being a great heel. And also, in her matches, it's always Sasha that is usually the one that bails her out. Just for context for this one. Okay, in the beginning, Asuka managed to be the outright aggressor. At one point, she even hit a DDT on the outside. Bayley, however, caught up to the challenger and managed to slow the pace. She caught Asuka off guard with a Bayley to belly, but this got her a near fall. Following this, Asuka picked up the pace, but this would be a wrongdoing as Bayley eventually sent Asuka right into the apron. The champion isolated that knee, but not for long as Asuka was there to connect with the double knees. They went back and forth before Bayley got caught in the armbar. Asuka did this the entire match, and she always had a couple of tricks up her sleeves. Despite Bayley, she always had something in her arsenal. That's what I'm trying to say. Realizing her bestie's title's in jeopardy, Sasha distracted Asuka a couple of times, and this paid dividends for Bayley as she rolled up Asuka with the inside cradle to win the match. Yeah, good title match. After the match, Sasha and Bayley continued the assault on Asuka, leaving her damaged goods for the upcoming match. Overall, it was satisfying. These 3 are perhaps the most reliable stars in the entire company. Asuka in the first third was all over Bayley. The champion, though, slowed down the pace a little, and the final third featured some work on the knees. So for this one, 3.5 stars in my opinion. It could be 4 stars to you, it doesn't matter, but for me, 3.5. The next match was for the Raw Tag Team Championships. Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, the Street Profits, defended the titles against Andrade and Angel Garza. KO provided commentary, and the story of this one, Zelina poisoned Montez Ford. She denied it, but it was eventually revealed to be true. But hey, at least there's a story there. So the bell rings. Ford took the early advantage with some high-flying moves, but this tactic would prove to be ineffective if used improperly, as you could see here. Garza and Andrade managed to slowly isolate Montez Ford. The pants were taken off. The heels were very outspoken and confident. They just exuded confidence at every single moment. As for Montez Ford, he just couldn't get into it. Eventually, though, he found a tiny opening, and he made the most out of it by tagging in Angelo Dawkins. He had the hot tag sequence. He threw around Andrade, who eventually responded with a back elbow, but that didn't do much as Dawkins hit a sudden spear. Then Garza and Ford entered the match. Ford went to the high rank district, but Garza managed to withstand the crossbody and turn the momentum against Ford himself. The ref caught Andrade using Garza's feet for leverage. Zelina protested this, and Garza superkicked Ford right into the ropes, which caused Zelina to fall to the ground. Andrade checked on him. This left Garza alone to the champions, and boom, he received that cash out and from the heavens. Overall, a fun match. It's not great or anything like that, but I enjoyed some of it, and chances are you probably did. So for this one, 2 3/4, I feel like it could have been better, but I don't know. Maybe expectations were higher in my mind. That's what I felt, but yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. The next match was a loser leaves WWE match between Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. Honestly, this match was really hyped. It seemed like the dark horse of the pay-per-view. In these 2 matches, it was seen as the match that was going to steal the show in a way. Obviously, Sonya's issue with that idiot affected the match in my opinion. Once that happened, I didn't really expect them to put on a classic or anything like that. So the bell rings. Mandy took early advantage with rights. She threw Sonya around into the barricade before hitting a clothesline from the top of the announce table. Mandy then brought out a table installed when Sonya was there to blast her with a chair. Inside the ring, Deville delivered some rough kicks that got her a near fall. She locked Mandy in a dragon sleeper for a bit before adjusting to a triangle. Sonya Deville continued to dictate the pace when Mandy hit a sudden knee. Deville avoided disaster and they brawled on the outside, and nobody, although Deville kind of did benefit from this situation. Mandy Rose bounced back with a couple of pump knees, and that's what got her the victory. It felt anticlimactic in a way, but what happened to them earlier this week, I believe it definitely came into effect, and for that, like, they have bigger issues to deal with. That stuff is stuck in their mind like a freaking home intruder. What the hell is going on? They probably just couldn't put on a performance befitting a SummerSlam match. After the match, Sonya wept in tears, and Otis, who I forgot existed, came out to celebrate with his girl. Overall, like I said, something was off with this match, and it was to be expected. They weren't in the right frame of mind from what I saw, but it wasn't bad. So for this one, 2.5. But yeah, expectations were much higher, but after that stuff that happened earlier this week, I don't think anyone expected them to put on a classic or anything like that after what happened. Okay, the next match was a street fight between the Monday Night Messiah, Seth Rollins, and the debuting Dominik Mysterio. Man, this card, looking at it, it just had so many hyped matches. Dominik himself, it's so damn weird to believe he's debuting. He used to appear occasionally on TV, but I never really thought he'd get in there and follow in his father's footsteps until a couple of years earlier. But yes, it's crazy to see Dominik finally wrestle. He had to do this for his family to silence the Monday Night Messiah. Ray was blind, and overall, it was just a sad time for his family. As for Seth, he stuck it to the Mysterio family with his attire choice, and he was just dastardly. By the way, that's Halloween Havoc 97 for those of you that don't know. In the beginning, Dominik was overcome with the fact that it's his debut. Seth realized this was an opportunity and he got on the rookie's head. He gave him a free shot, shoved him away, but Dominik decided, you know what, let's make the most out of this. He showcased some of his abilities with arm drags, a kip up, and Seth started to actually take him seriously. But then his little disciple handed him a kendo stick that made it to the hands of Dominik. It was all good for Dominik at this point. He has a kendo stick, he's gonna whack the guy he hates the most. But there were moments like this that showed Dominik's inexperience, like in storyline, obviously. Seth took away the kendo stick. He punished Dominik while Ray watched on in worry. Dominik struggled to get back into it, and at this point, Seth was just sticking it to Ray, who was almost at a point of despair, but Dominik refused to allow his father to get involved. Dominik Mysterio then found an opening. He delivered some moves that I honestly think he didn't have in his arsenal, and then the kendo stick was used. Dominik returned the favor for a bit, and he tried going up to the top, but Rollins hit a superplex Falcon Arrow combo that wasn't enough. Then the poor guy had to endure some kendo stick shots, and seeing as that wasn't enough, a table was brought in. Ray walked in frantic pace around the ringside area as Seth was setting up Dominik for the table. But have no fear, Ray. Dominik managed to Russian leg sweep Rollins right through the table. He then hit a frog splash that nearly won the match, but once again, inexperience came to play, and Dominik was on the receiving end of a mean-looking powerbomb. If the kendo stick wasn't enough, Rollins brought in handcuffs. Dominik's mother came out to stop this. Seth was provoking her, and I don't know why. I'm seriously a dumbass at this point. I seriously believe she was going to join his group. I don't know, I'm just an idiot, I guess. Dominik fought back, Murphy broke the unwritten treaty, and Ray ran in there. The duo isolated Ray and handcuffed him, and Seth approached his wife, and Dominik was there to fight back. He hit the 619, but he was unable to drop the dime because Rollins put his knees up. Seth continued to stick it to Ray before wrapping it up with a curb stomp. Honestly, amazing story. I just loved it. Seth was this heartless individual that prides himself from others' misfortunes. He stuck it to Ray and succeeded in doing so. Some were disappointed at the fact that Dominik lost, but it completely made sense. As for his performance, he stepped up when he needed to be, and I personally think he's going to be great. Like, this was just his debut match, and he got most of the basics right, and I love this selling. Like, he was doing some stuff better than a lot of guys on the roster, in my opinion. The storytelling was really there for this one, and other than a certain moment in the show, this match stuck in my mind. Rollins said a bunch of stuff that I couldn't catch, and it just added to his character. So for this one, 3 3/4. Like I said, the story sticks out for me, and I highly doubt this is over. It might boil over in Hell in a Cell, who knows. I think Ray's gonna fight back. He'll probably put his career mask on the line, I believe, but yeah, that's what I think is gonna happen in the future. The next match is for the Raw Women's Championship. Sasha Banks defends the title against Asuka. Okay, Asuka already had the knee injury, right? Well, going into this one, it was a clear disadvantage. You probably know that. But yes, they had a great match the previous month that was marred by controversy. Bayley watched on as Sasha's biggest supporter here. And right when the bell rang, Sasha prayed on that knee. The tactic itself was ineffective because Asuka had so much fire and momentum. But once again, at the apron area, something happened to Asuka's knee. Sasha capitalized and hit a very mean sunset flip that got my head hurting. It was rough. It was ugly. Despite this, Asuka beat the count, but she was punished by the boss. Bayley was the mascot watching on, and Banks, though, made a mistake, and Asuka suddenly locked her in a hold. She had a DDT from the top rope. Bayley was shook. Despite the knee, Asuka climbed to the top and hit a missile dropkick, but at a moment's notice, Banks bounced back by bouncing Asuka's face off her knees. She attempted a frog splash, but nobody was home, and so Bayley tried motivating her. Asuka caught her right in the middle of the ring with the Asuka lock. Sasha fought back and countered it to the Banks statement, but this backfired. Right in the middle of the ring, she was stuck. Eventually, she escaped. Bayley got involved, and Sasha didn't exactly capitalize on this moment because Asuka managed to lock her in the hold and force the boss to tap out. Bayley was fuming and Asuka was ecstatic. Now, for context, Bayley wasn't there for Sasha like Sasha was earlier on, because when Asuka was about to bump into her, she moved out of the way, and that in a nutshell is what cost Sasha the championship. It gave enough time for Asuka to go back in there and make her tap out. She wasn't distracted with Bayley, and as a result of that, this is what happened. Sasha is no longer champion. Overall, awesome match. These two could do no wrong, and for the time they were given, they made the most out of it, and it also advanced the story between Sasha and Bayley. So for this one, you might think I'm on crack, but I don't give a damn. 4 stars. It wasn't necessarily my favorite match of the pay-per-view. It was my third favorite, but I can at least acknowledge they did a pretty good job with the time they were given. Also, when is Sasha going to retain the title in a matchup like straight up? She has the worst record in defending titles. How many times did she win the title? 5 times? Well, she lost it 5 times on her first title defense. And yeah, that's just a sad stat if you're a Sasha fan, to be honest. Okay, the next match was for the WWE Championship. Drew McIntyre defended the gold against the Viper, Randy Orton. Okay, this is the one I've been waiting for. Orton went through a bunch of legends with ease, and now he finally meets his match. Orton shows no doubt, neither does Drew. And they were both ready to fight. Now, I honestly thought they were going to main event. Don't know why they didn't. Now I know why. Overall, it was built up pretty well. Drew's not scared of Orton. Orton's confidently heading into the match to win the title. As for the match itself, in the very beginning, Orton tried getting into Drew's head, and he utilized a couple of clever tactics. Drew missed a beat, and he almost received a devastating RKO. Drew began thinking, getting his mind together, and it seemed like Drew was like, why didn't you say so? He started to get into the mind of Randy Orton. He sent him into the corner, delivered right, and he was playing into Orton's plan. Why? Well, a couple of seconds later, he was sent to the post where he tweaked his shoulder. The challenger realized this, and he pounced. The match pace began to slow down, and Orton was at work. Suplex off the announce table, the chin lock, a Orton special, stomp, all of that. But then Drew himself managed to cause an issue to Orton's knee. He had a spine buster, and both men struggled at this point. And to add insult to injury, he locked Orton in the figure 4, and after several seconds of excruciating pain, Randy pulled the ref before blasting his opponent right in the eye. It was busted open as a result. They went back and forth before McIntyre gained steam. He threw Orton around, he dived down to him, he kipped up, and all this got him a near fall. Following this, McIntyre managed to connect with a future shock DDT, but Orton kicked out. Then, Orton was busted open himself, and he capitalized on McIntyre's mistake, but he didn't stay on the offense for long as Drew delivered a glass cow kiss before sending himself and the Viper over the top rope. Once they entered, Orton was there to hit a second rope DDT, and the fans booed. I'm not sure, though, as they knew it was coming. RK nope. That wasn't it. It was the punt, but that wasn't to be too, as McIntyre hit a powerbomb before opting for the Claymore. He didn't hit it, though, as Orton ducked, and he attempted the RKO, but his shoulders went down on the mat, and he lost. What? Honestly, though, the result doesn't really matter to me. Drew loses, wins. Either way, it's satisfying. This match in itself was pretty damn entertaining. Orton is motivated. Drew is hell-bent on stealing the show, and overall, you can't go wrong with this being your match of the night. I like the slow pace as it was a nice contrast from the other matchups. Plus, it was physical and it was unpredictable, so for me, 4 stars. My favorite match of the night due to the intensity, and Drew, in my eyes, was a made man due to the victory, but I also expect a rematch that is going to deliver and be even better than this one. So yeah, by the way, Keith Lee is coming. I can't wait for him to come. I hope he has a match at Payback, and my prediction is for his opponent, if he was to have a match there, is Dolph Ziggler. If you know, you know. And the main event, Braun Strowman defends the Universal Championship against the Fiend in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Okay, this one had the most hype. Strowman's true colors emerged by the Fiend, and honestly, I'm confused. Like, is Bray the good guy now? You had Wyatt getting stretchered out of there, Alexa Bliss being thrown in the air. It was just a crazy-ass build. And Strowman's the heel now. I don't even know, but it was crazy. Anyways, heading into this one, I expected a screwy or crazy finish. Also, it's wild to think that The Fiend debuted a year earlier. He quickly became the most popular star. They almost ruined him. He ruled SmackDown. He got beaten by Goldberg. And overall, it was a roller coaster of a year. As for Braun Strowman, it looked scarier now. Right out of the gate, Strowman ran to the Fiend. This didn't accomplish anything, and the Fiend nearly murdered Strowman with ease. He brought out a toolbox, but then Strowman bounced back by plowing through the Fiend and the barricade. This didn't do much in the grand scheme of things, but the chokeslam on the table did. Well, barely. They went back and forth, and Strowman was rough. Hit the power slam, and he was like, what else? He grew frustrated, and they made their way to the stage and to the back. They bounced off the walls before the Fiend hit his sister Abigail, and I kind of believed it was it, but it wasn't. Both men returned to the arena. The Fiend attempted the mandible claw, but he was unsuccessful. Strowman hit a second power slam, but it still wasn't enough. I believe this was the part where Strowman began to cuss, and Michael Cole translated this as, what do I gotta do to beat this man? Even though that wasn't what he said. He cursed. Then he found a box cutter. He cut through the ring, and the Fiend recovered and hit a sudden Uranagi before hitting Sister Abigail twice on the exposed wood to win the match and the Universal Championship. But then all of a sudden, freaking Roman Reigns returned. He speared the hell out of Fiend and whooped Strowman's ass with a damn chair. He wrapped up the assault with a mean-looking spear on the Fiend before hoisting that title, bragging, and damn the swagger there. God, what can I say? Roman, he felt different this time around, in my opinion. Overall, this match did catch my attention. It wasn't great or hell even good, but I was into it, which is something I can't say about all the other Fiend matches. The ending to some was annoying, but I didn't really care because I knew Fiend was going to win. Maybe they wanted it to be more interesting. I'm not sure. I did think Retribution would do something, but they didn't. Overall, 2.5 stars. I didn't expect much, so it turned out to be decent, but I do find it weird Alexa wasn't there as expected because she played a significant role in the storyline, and for them to just not do something about it was bizarre, but whatever. As for Roman, I'm really interested in what they're going to do with him. He was shouting, "I made you," to Strowman. He told Wyatt that he's just a clown in a mask, which you gotta laugh at me, and he's back with a vengeance and veneers. It seems like they're gonna finally book him the way he should be, an arrogant guy that blows through competition and knows that he's the man. Something like Drew McIntyre, but in a different way. Overall, a very enjoyable SummerSlam. I don't watch Raw and SmackDown every week because I don't live in the US at the moment, but I always catch the pay-per-views. Last time I was truly disappointed with the pay-per-view was Hell in a Cell. Other than that, I always found the pay-per-views that followed either decent or good. This one, though, it might be the best of this pandemic era, as the big dog's back. Dominik put in a performance that I honestly didn't expect. The story of that match stands out to me. Like I said earlier, other than Roman's return, that's what stood out to me. My favorite match was Drew versus Randy. It was mean and rough, and that's just the way it should have been. Anyways, enjoyable pay-per-view. I'm looking forward to Roman's return. He looks like a big star, but the problem is this is WWE we're talking about, so I don't really expect this to end well. And that's your first video. Make sure you hit an RKO on the like button and perhaps the curb stomp on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.